Welcome to the program. Glad you're here. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about what's coming here instead of waiting an hour. I think it's important to know what's going on with Rex Tillerson and Russia and North Korea, because I believe we are possibly on the eve of global war. And let me tie these things together and explain what's happening in the world. Our Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, is going to Russia today to discuss Syria and the powder keg that it is. His wheels will touch down in Moscow as new allegations hit the news yesterday. And this is a really big deal. For some reason, the United States decided to announce that we believe that Russia and Putin was fully aware that Assad maintained a stockpile of chemical weapons that Putin and Russia had promised the world no longer existed. A U.S. official also said yesterday that a Russian drone was flying over the site of last week's chemical attack, and shortly afterwards, Russian or Syrian jets bombed the survivors, presumably to get rid of all of the witnesses. So what exactly did we come out? This is really important stuff. We just said that Putin knew about the chemical weapons, that Putin knew in advance that Assad was going to use them on his own people, then that they launched a drone to cover up any survivors, to cover up the evidence of the war crime. So Russia knew about a war crime and then committed another war crime to cover up for a war crime. That's a pretty big deal. That, if there's no red line in the sand on that one, remember, this is Hague stuff. We are now calling officially, our State Department and the White House came out and said, we have evidence that these things are true. That means that the United States is saying that Vladimir Putin and Russia are engaged in war crimes. Complicit doesn't begin to cover it. That is significant, and only one reason why I say we are headed towards a very dark place. Now, I don't think any of this should be surprising. I mean, Vladimir Putin, the all-knowing former head of the KGB, we think he was completely unaware that Assad cheated? Of course he knew. Now, 1,100 miles from where Tillerson's plane is going to be putting down, more Putin complicity is occurring. This time it's happening within Russia's own borders. No one can convince me that Vladimir Putin isn't involved. Nothing in Russia happens without Vladimir Putin's blessings. Nothing. Anyone will tell you that from Russia. This is happening with a guy who is a dear friend to Vladimir Putin. A report came out on April 1st that homosexuals were mysteriously disappearing in Chechnya. Over the previous week, up to 50 gay men had just vanished, and the rumor that over 100 were being detained. Now, listen to this. This is the Chechnyan leader, President Ramzan Kadyrov. This is how he denied this, that they are now picking up any homosexual and murdering them or torturing them. Listen to this denial. You cannot arrest or repress people who don't exist. If such a people existed in Chechnya, gay people, law enforcement wouldn't have to worry about them. Their own relatives would have sent them where they could never return. End quote.
Wow.
Now, this is a Muslim ruler of Chechnya who is in bed with Vladimir Putin. He's a strongman. He's basically saying, all the honor killings would have killed the homosexuals already. We don't have to do it. We don't have to do it. The honor killings keep that population under control. This is a guy that Putin personally put into power. Yesterday, another Russian report came out in a very credible Russian publication that homosexuals are now being kept in a concentration camp, quote, tortured with electric currents and heavily beaten, sometimes to death, end quote. There are things happening around the world that we have not seen since the 1940s. Are we to believe, first of all, that Putin knows nothing about any of this? Anybody who is now telling you that Russia is on the good side and the right side and hey, we haven't done some things, we're not all saints over here, don't listen to them. You will find yourself on the wrong side of history. This is inside of Russia. This is not some distant land. He knows John Podesta's email and his Gmail password, but he's missing the concentration camp that's happening inside his own country? I don't think so. We've all been told that the world is changing, and I have been telling you this for a while. You will not recognize the world. We are here, gang. 1,700 miles away, war drums are growing louder in North Korea. President Trump ordered the Carl Vinson Naval Strike Group to set sail, and park right on Kim Jong-un's backyard. China has now responded. Are you hearing any of this from your mainstream news? China has responded yesterday by sending 150,000 troops to the North Korean border. Now, presumably, this is to deal with a mass wave of refugees that they are expecting after a U.S. attack. North Korea issued a statement warning the United States of catastrophic consequences that would follow any American military action. Make no mistake here. This is not Iraq. This is not Syria. If war restarts with North Korea, this is warfare on a completely different scale. Violence is possible here, the kind of violence that we haven't seen since World War II. Analysts predict that the capital of South Korea, will be completely leveled after North Korea's counterattack. That means 2 million, is it 2 or 5 million people in Seoul? Completely annihilated. 10 million people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they have the weaponry, and they have already said they will do it.